Will you go to hell if you miss church on Sunday?
It's a heavy question. And for millions of Christians, the answer feels like a uncomfortable maybe. We're taught from a young age that Sunday is God's day. We feel a deep, nagging guilt if we sleep in, go to brunch, or simply choose to rest at home instead of sitting in a pew. We've heard sermons quoting Hebrews 10:25, "Do not forsake the assembly." It feels like a direct commandment. But what if I told you that this entire concept, this mandatory Sunday attendance, is built on a profound misunderstanding? What if the guilt you feel has less to do with God's law and more to do with Roman politics and centuries of human tradition? Today, we are not arguing against going to church. Church, fellowship, and corporate worship are powerful, beautiful, and vital parts of the Christian faith. But we are going to dismantle the guilt. We are going to find the truth about the Sabbath, and I promise you, what Jesus actually said will set you free. Part 1. The original commandment. Let's start at the beginning. The only holy weekly day commanded in the entire Bible is the Sabbath. We find this in Exodus chapter 20 as the fourth commandment. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. Let's be perfectly clear. The seventh day is Saturday, not Sunday. This commandment was given to the nation of Israel as a core part of their covenant with God, and its purpose was revolutionary. In a world that ran on slavery and relentless labor, God commanded rest. It was a gift. It was a day to stop, to breathe, to remember God as creator, and to remember their liberation from slavery in Egypt. The original Sabbath was not primarily about a place you had to go. It was about a thing you had to stop doing. You had to stop your work. But as humans often do, we took a gift and turned it into a prison. By the time of Jesus, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, had added dozens of meticulous, suffocating rules to the Sabbath. They had 39 specific categories of forbidden work, including things like tying a knot, writing 2 letters, or even walking a certain distance. They became so obsessed with the rules of rest that they forgot the point of rest. And then Jesus showed up. Part 2. Jesus and the Sabbath. If you want to understand the Sabbath, you have to watch Jesus. His interactions on this day are some of the most controversial of his entire ministry. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus and his disciples are walking through a grain field on the Sabbath. They get hungry, so they start picking heads of grain to eat. The Pharisees are outraged. Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath? Jesus' response blows their entire legalistic system apart. He references a time when King David ate consecrated bread, then delivers one of the most important lines in the Gospels. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. He was saying, you've missed the point. God gave you this day as a gift, and you've turned it into a weapon to judge people. The day serves us. We don't serve the day. He wasn't finished. Time and time again, Jesus intentionally healed people on the Sabbath. He healed a man with a shriveled hand right in the synagogue. He healed a man who had been invalid for 38 years. He healed a blind man using mud, which the Pharisees considered work. Every time, the religious leaders were furious. Why? Because Jesus was committing the ultimate sin in their eyes. He was choosing mercy over rules. He was proving that people are more important than protocols. Jesus was not abolishing the Sabbath. He was restoring its true meaning: rest, restoration, and compassion. Part 3. The Sabbath versus the Lord's Day. So if the biblical Sabbath is Saturday, where did Sunday come from? This is the improvement you requested, and it's the single most important distinction we must make. The New Testament shows the early Jewish Christians, like the apostles, continued to observe the Saturday Sabbath. They would go to the synagogue or temple on Saturday, as was their lifelong custom. But something new began to happen. After Jesus rose from the dead on the first day of the week, Sunday, that day became profoundly significant. We see glimpses of this new tradition in the book of Acts. In chapter 20, verse 7, it says, "On the first day of the week, we came together to break bread." In 1 Corinthians 16:2, Paul instructs the church to set aside their offering on the first day of every week. This day wasn't called the Sabbath. It began to be known as the Lord's Day, Revelation 1:10, a day specifically to celebrate the resurrection, the victory of Christ over death. Notice the critical difference. The Saturday Sabbath was a commandment of rest, looking back at creation. The Sunday Lord's Day was a celebration of worship, looking forward to the new creation in Christ. One was a law of the Old Covenant, the other was a celebration of the New Covenant. For the first few centuries, many Christians observed both. They rested on Saturday and worshiped on Sunday. The shift to only Sunday was a gradual historical process.
Part 4. The historical shift to Sunday tradition. So, how did this Sunday tradition become a mandatory rule? The answer is not theological, it's political. For 300 years, Christianity was a fringe, often persecuted religion. But in 321 AD, everything changed. The Roman Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity. He wanted to unify his vast, fractured empire, and he saw this new faith as the glue. Constantine enacted a civil law that is one of the most pivotal in Western history. He decreed that all business, courts, and workshops must close on the venerable day of the sun. Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, was the official pagan god of the Roman Empire. Constantine, being a brilliant politician, found a day that worked for everyone. The pagans already worshipped the sun on Sunday, and the Christians were already celebrating the resurrection on Sunday. With one decree, Sunday became the official imperial day of rest. Over time, as the Roman Empire became the Holy Roman Empire, the lines blurred. The civic law of Sunday rest, established by an emperor, merged with the Christian tradition of Sunday worship. Eventually, church leaders began to transfer the theological weight of the Saturday Sabbath onto Sunday. The Lord's Day tradition became the Christian Sabbath commandment. By the Middle Ages, the transformation was complete. Missing Sunday service was seen as not just breaking a church tradition, but breaking the fourth commandment itself. And that is the guilt that has been passed down for nearly 1,700 years. Part 5. What about do not forsake the assembly? But wait, you might say, what about Hebrews 10:25? The Bible does command us to meet. This is the final piece of the puzzle. That verse says, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. We must read this in its proper context. The letter to the Hebrews was written to a group of persecuted Christians who were terrified. They were facing violence and social rejection. Many were tempted to renounce their faith entirely and slip back into their old, safer religions. When the author says, don't stop meeting, he isn't scolding someone for missing a service because they were sick or had to work. He is pleading with them. Do not abandon the faith. Do not desert your community in this time of crisis. You need each other to survive. This verse is a powerful call to Christian community. It's a reminder that faith is not a solo journey, but it is not a divine roll call. It is not a law that tethers your salvation to your attendance in a specific building on a specific day. Conclusion: the true Sabbath rest. So, let's return to our question. Is going to church on Sunday mandatory? No, It is a beautiful, powerful, and God-honoring tradition, but it is not a commandment for salvation. The guilt you feel for missing a Sunday service is not from God. It is the echo of human tradition and Roman politics. Does this mean we should stop going to church? Absolutely not. Gathering with other believers is one of the greatest gifts we have. It's where we find encouragement, wisdom, and strength. It's where we worship as one body. But we must go with a heart of joy, not guilt. We must go because we get to, not because we have to. The ultimate truth of the new covenant is this: the Sabbath is no longer a day, it is a person. Hebrews chapter 4 tells us that Jesus is our Sabbath rest. When we put our faith in him, we enter into that rest. We stop striving, we stop trying to earn our salvation through works, whether those works are building a tower or just perfect church attendance. Your rest is found in Christ, not in a schedule. So, value the fellowship, love your church, but let go of the guilt. Your relationship with God is defined by his grace, not your attendance record. But now I want to hear from you. Be honest. Have you ever felt that sense of guilt for missing a Sunday service? And has this explanation helped you understand the difference between tradition and command? Share your story in the comments below. And if this video helped set you free from that guilt, be sure to like and subscribe for more truths that challenge religious tradition.